Sidney Royal Selby III, what the fuck is up with these rappers' names nowadays? Better known as Desiigner, is a rapper from Brooklyn, New York, and blew up from the success of his #1 song Panda and being signed to Kanye West's Good Music imprint. I know Desiigner only has one mixtape so far, but I feel like you can hear most of what he has to offer on it. I'll also have a look at the tracks he featured on, so we have a lot more to talk about. Kodak will be coming in the next episode, but it's just to give me more time to listen to his music and form an opinion on it. But the question for today is Desiigner one of the worst rappers in the game? Let's find out.
I'm a monster, I'm a killer. Shawty go pop to the video. Bunch of nigga clip a key. Jump out the door, they go free. The temple out the door, they go heat.
As always, for part 1 we'll be looking at his voice and delivery. I think the most frustrating thing about Desiigner is he could actually have a decent rap voice if it didn't sound like he was trying to rap with a dislocated jaw. Seriously, it's not entirely impossible to tell what he's saying, but it's damn near close to completely unintelligible. There's at the very least 4 words per line that you just cannot understand, and sometimes maximum 4 that you can understand. He's definitely one of the biggest mumble rappers out right now. As for his voice, a lot of the time he's used auto-tune, and it works okay with his voice, but makes him sound like a Future clone. It's really weird because he's from New York, but you couldn't guess that because he really tries to force the Atlanta style in his music. Like, check out the song Caliber from his new English mixtape. He sounds so much like he's biting Future's style here.
I make a line of different money. Travel with 90 like 50 something. Finesse at the blubber, I'm getting blonde. Caliber, caliber, caliber.
I don't know why you'd want to steal Future style, but Desiigner does. It's pretty much the same on most of his songs. However, one track I really like his delivery on is his song called Make It Out. You can actually understand what he's saying as he pretty much enunciates every word. The song has a really intense delivery and I love the way it sounds.
Car crash, call it racing now. All of them killers won't make it out. Car crash, call it racing now. Got a big brick trying to build a house. Try to run my Mercedes out.
It's not perfect by a long shot, but it's better than his usual auto-tune mumbling. Overall, he has his moments here and there of good, understandable delivery, but most of the time, honestly, it's just that standard auto-tune mumbling that you can't understand. And he never tries to make his voice sound as good as it could be, so I'm gonna give him a 3 out of 10 for the rating on his voice and delivery. And for our second part, we're gonna be looking at his flow. Desiigner actually usually has a pretty good flow, but that isn't exactly hard to do when you're mumble rapping. But he definitely still knows how to flow. He's nowhere near as good as a mumble flower as Young Thug is, but Desiigner is decent. I love his flow on his #1 hit Panda. I feel like despite the mumbling, he has a very good flow across the verses here. I've noticed generally though that he usually tries to carry his flows with his gunshot ad-libs, you know, the grrrah, They keep the track moving and are fun for a while, but eventually it just gets to the point where he goes grrrah so much that it gets hilarious. Like it's literally a meme now. I do quite like his flow on the song Zombie Walk as well, and I think this is actually overall a pretty good song. His verses are really nice on it. However, there are quite a lot of songs where I don't really like his flow. For example, the song Talk Regardless actually kind of annoys me just because the flows sound really dragged out in a way.
I got niggas in the station. Motherfucker going talk regardless. I run this shit like a goddess. I'm in this shit when I started. Tuesday the team and I'm mugging.
It's not insanely slow or anything, it's just the standard half-bar flows really. Then of course there's Timmy Turner, which isn't horrible, but at a few points his flow sounds noticeably offbeat and it stands out. Overall, Desiigner can have some really good flow patterns when he tries, but unfortunately he doesn't do so on a lot of tracks. I think I'll go with giving him a 5.5 out of 10 for this part. For part 3, we're gonna be looking at his lyric. This segment was hard for me to do, mainly because I couldn't understand shit he was saying, so I had to resort to looking up all his lyrics on Rap Genius. Let's start with the lyrics I thought were good. Surprisingly, Desiigner has wordplay occasionally, but you wouldn't know that because you can't hear what he's saying. But seriously, I like this lyric on Make It Out.
Now got a big brick trying to build a house.
I thought it was actually pretty smart, as a brick is something you would use to build a house, but it is also a measurement for cocaine. So there's the nice comparison of him trying to make serious money from selling drugs and trying to build a house. It's kinda simple, but it's more than I expected. And it's always nice to see wordplay appear no matter what. It's few and far between, but it is there. Now, you may have heard that the more you repeat phrases in a song, the more memorable and catchy it is. Desiigner has definitely fucking heard that, because he has the most repetitive hooks I have ever heard in my entire life, and even has a lot of repeated phrases in his verses. Like, yeah, it can be catchy a few times, but it gets to the point where you just sound uncreative. In the song Shooters, he repeats the phrase, "Finna pull up with the shooters," count this, 22 fucking times. By the way, to put it in perspective how repetitive that song is? The song is only 1 minute and a half long. I'm gonna have to give him a 3 out of 10 here. Overall, there's occasional signs of good lyrics from Desiigner, but it's not often at all, and his insanely repetitive bars get old fast. For part 4, we have his beat selection. I think Desiigner has pretty good production across his music, but it's not my favorite. Ones I really do like are the big crashing beat on Make It Out, which really fits his intense delivery, the fast-paced erratic beat on Monsters and Villains, which I really wish was longer, and the synth-driven and bass-driven beat for Overnight. I think the best by far though was the beats for The Day? How can I say that without sounding like a retard? I'm just gonna call it The Day, which consisted of 2 different beats. The first was a slow and menacing beat with really eerie background noises, and I loved it.
I don't know what I'ma do today. I don't know who I'ma shoot today. I don't know who I'ma poop today. I don't know who I'ma.
Then it switches to a racing, frantic beat that sounded almost video game-like halfway through. That part was my favorite. It sounded ridiculous. They were the biggest production highlights for me, but for me there's one thing that makes it all fall apart. See, this is about the beat selection, not just how the beats themselves sound. And I feel like a lot of these beats don't really work well with Desiigner's style and voice. Like, I feel like they're a lot better suited to other rappers. So he doesn't really employ the beats to their full effect. I think I'll give him a nice generous 7 out of 10 here, as the beats he uses are pretty goddamn good, but he doesn't really fit them to his style as well as he could do. And for our 5th and final part, I'll be ranking my overall enjoyment of Desiigner's music. Now this is a weird one, as Desiigner only has 1 mixtape at the time this video was made, but it's strange because I feel like from this and his recent single Timmy Turner, it almost feels like I've heard everything he can do. As for how much I enjoyed the New English mixtape, it was average at best, and was a very strange listening experience. One thing I hated was how most of his songs in the first half just sounded like demos, honestly they did. And in the first song Caliber, it just cuts off so abruptly that you don't even have time to register that the song is finished before the next one starts. But by far the biggest disappointment for me in that aspect was Monsters and Villains. As I mentioned, I actually really fucking like this song, but he cuts it off after literally 37 seconds. Where the fuck is the full song at? I honestly hated how he did this. It made it feel like it wasn't even a full mixtape. Biggest highlights for me were Overnight, where I absolutely loved the beat and the hook, Zombie Walk, which was a really cool, dark, menacing track with a fairly creepy sound, and Jet, just for Pusha T's verse. Also, the interludes were nice as fuck and insanely well produced, but they did sound fairly out of place on this album. Lowest points for me were pretty much every other track that I didn't mention there. I think the main problem I have with it is I just do not like Desiigner as a rapper at all, and that is where the main fault lies. The biggest question I have to ask myself here is, will I ever come back to listen to this mixtape again? And the honest answer is no. I'll have to rate Desiigner a 4 out of 10 here. It's really not for me, and it's music that I doubt I'll go back to for a while. Only songs I'd really want to come back for soon are Panda and Zombie Walk. So now I'm going to be giving you guys my overall verdict on Desiigner and where we will rank him against the 5 other rappers that we have looked at in this series so far. So, as a numerical score, if I total up all the scores given so far, Desiigner gets a decent 22.5 out of 50. Definitely not the worst score I've given here, but it's not the best either. If you haven't seen this before, I don't rank the rappers based purely on that numerical value. That's just some fun shit we do, but I feel like this does reflect my opinion here. Sometimes it doesn't, but here it does. As for where he would rank, I think 21 Savage will still keep his spot as the worst rapper in the game currently, and I'll put Desiigner a couple of spots higher as the 4th worst rapper that we've looked at so far in this series, with Ray Shrimmerd still holding the top spot nicely. They're gonna be hard ones to beat. I really do like their music, which is very important to know. I don't hate all the rappers in this series. That's why there's a question mark at the end of the worst rappers in the game title. Well guys, that is gonna be it for our episode of worst rappers in the game today. This has been episode 6. I'm really loving this series so far. It's really fun to enjoy it. It's one of the series I look forward to recording to the most. Even though I have to listen to a lot of music I don't like to do it, it's still nice to like be able to get an opinion on rappers I wouldn't normally listen to, or ones that I do like and people wouldn't really expect me to like. So it's really fun for me to do. I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as I am making it, and I hope you guys enjoyed the face reveal that was released on Wednesday. There will be part 2 of my Q&A. If it hasn't dropped already, it will drop soon, part 2 of it, because it did cut off early because my camera's battery ran out because I I didn't charge it like a spastic. But yeah, if you guys like this video, please leave a like. Comment who you want to see in this series next. I promise Kodak Black is next episode, no doubt. I have all his mixtapes downloaded and I just need to listen to them all over like a couple of times and then form a full opinion on them because I don't really have a solid one yet. I'm not going to spoil the video for you whether it's going to be positive or negative, but I have a few thoughts about Kodak so far. And with that being said, guys, what is your ranking for the worst rappers in the game so far? Let me know how you would rank the rappers down below who I've done so far. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. I bring new videos to you every Tuesday and Friday and occasionally on Sundays. I'm trying to push to make that a more regular video. And there is links to my Twitter and Patreon in the description. You can just follow me on Twitter if you want to just search for me. It's at CDTVProductions. And my Patreon is www.patreon.com/CDTVProductions. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate all the support. Love you guys. And this is CDTV Productions signing out.